All right, thousands of South Africans gathered in Pretoria early Wednesday to protest against President Jacob Zuma following his much criticized cabinet reshuffle.
Zuma, 75, has survived previous protests, but much dubbed National Day of Action looks different from others in our memory. And Voldi Caressa is our correspondent. She has more on that story.
They massed in the capital in their thousands, united in song and dance, with signs depicting their message. President Jacob Zuma has seen unprecedented marches against his leadership. This is the second one in under a week. The backlash from his midnight cabinet reshuffle continues to reverberate. At the head of this march, opposition leaders. Hand in hand, they walked to the seat of government.
President Jacob Zuma tried to dismiss these mass protests as racist. But from what you can see behind me, there's a cross-section of South Africans. Different parties, different colors, different backgrounds, all united for one goal, to see the end of a Zuma era.
When the state of South Africa is threatened, we put aside our differences. We unite for the purpose of winning back our beautiful country. We must salute these leaders, because when we are united, we will never be defeated by an illiterate president.
We will fight until the last drop of our blood to defend our motherland. Those who are threatening us, the peacetime revolutionaries have never seen us fight. They must try us and they will see how we will fight.
We can't continue marching forever. We must find a way to converge under one roof to discuss South Africa's future. We must find a vehicle that will provide a safe space for us, irrespective of political affiliation.
And while their desired solution may seem far off, opposition parties say they'll continue this momentum. They've promised similar protests in every major city in the country. Voldi Caressa, TVC News, Johannesburg.
What a 75th birthday present there for South African President Jacob Zuma. The point is, how long, for how long can South Africans actually hold out with this protest? Well, Voldi Caressa is live for us in Johannesburg. Good morning. How are you? Now, Voldi, why is this protest different?
Good morning.
Yes.
A little rough after yesterday, but we're surviving.
Okay, good to know that. Why is this protest different from all others before it?
I think because this time it was opposition leaders who marched. There were 7 opposition parties, and the sheer numbers that came out to support the march to the union buildings yesterday must have scared the ruling party, the ANC, here in South Africa. What you saw was all of these small parties showing that they could become a majority in 2019, with hundreds of people spilling into the streets of Pretoria in what was largely a peaceful march.
Okay, by any stroke of luck, if Zuma scales through this hurdle, this might just be the end of ANC. What do you think?
Well, some analysts may predict that, but I doubt we'll see the end of the African National Congress. It has a proud tradition and still a massive base of support in places like KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. What it will serve to do is perhaps divide this liberation movement, one of the oldest on the African continent. I don't think that it will be the end. It will just be a different kind of ANC that will be on display. Yesterday, after I left the march in Pretoria, I went to Kliptown, where President Jacob Zuma was celebrating his 75th birthday. Now, the last time he held a massive birthday bash was his 70th birthday. That's 5 years ago. And back then, he had the whole top echelons of the ANC at his birthday party. What was quite telling yesterday is that the top 6 of the ANC was basically missing. There were only 2 of them present there, and obviously President Jacob Zuma, but it was largely a low-key event compared to what we've seen in the past. Zuma deciding to celebrate his birthday with around 2,000 people from surrounding Soweto suburb. But the thing about it is that there weren't many people there from Gauteng's leadership. There weren't many people there from KZN, and like I said, the top 6 of the ANC was quite absent, was quite conspicuous in their absence.
All right, Voldy Karelsa, still remain with us. We're going out on TVC Entertainment, but viewers there can continue with the show on TVC Nigeria, DSTV 418, Go TV 45, and Free TV 701.
And on Stat, it is a 270, and Star Times, it is still 307. Join the conversation there. Okay, so we have Voldy still.
Yes, Voldy is still in South Africa. Of course, the protest against Jacob Zuma. South Africans have been calling on him to step down. It was dubbed a National Day of Action. Voldy, yes, in response to your question as to whether this may just be the beginning of the end for the ANC, Malema, the opposition leader of course, he's of the EFF, or EFF, as it were, has said, look, this is not just against Zuma. The protests are against the ANC. So what's your take on this? Do you think the ANC really still has any kind of sympathies from South Africans?
As I mentioned, it does still have a massive support base. That's evidenced by the results from the local government elections. Granted, they did lose a lot of ground in some of the provinces, but overwhelmingly South Africans in the majority still voted ANC. And analysts post those elections in August have spent a lot of time looking at what makes voting patterns in South Africa. I think it will be crucial, the vote in 2019 will be very crucial given what we're living through at the moment. Last night at his birthday party, he will step down today if the ANC asks him to, making it clear that the only person who can ask him to vacate his position, both as ANC president and as President of South Africa, is the party itself. And they've indicated that they wouldn't do that until they go into an elective conference at the end of this year. Now, the kind of political shift that we're seeing is to be expected ahead of an ANC elective conference. We see it every time they replace leaders because it has such a massive impact for the country, and because of what's happened under Zuma's leadership, the fact that we're now junk status, that cabinet, that disastrous cabinet reshuffle, the charges of the allegations of corruption against the president, the Nkandla judgment against him. This is what we're heading into at this December 2017 elective conference of the ANC. And it's this heightened political climate that makes people speculate whether or not the party will survive.
And all of these allegations don't seem to be strong enough to move Jacob Zuma, especially the cabinet reshuffle. One would have thought that would be the catalyst, actually, you know, that will lead to the beginning of the end of his presidency, especially with the removal of Pravin Gordhan, the influential finance minister.
Yesterday, opposition parties were all in agreement that this cabinet reshuffle was, quote, the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the last straw, and this is why you've seen these marches In Johannesburg last Friday, the DA marched, and then the ANC had a counter march, but then there was a civil society march that attracted equally as many South Africans that came out. And yesterday was just a show of opposition force, a show of what these smaller parties could do if they were to unite and take on the mighty ANC.
Let's stick to the God hand, swapping God hand with Katimba. The grouse has been that Katimba has no financial background at all. If Zuma were to stay until 2019, perhaps bring in another Minister of Finance who has some financial background, do you think this could assuage the people?
Well, Minister Malusi Gigaba has gone out of his way to assure South Africans and assure investors that a good finance minister doesn't really have to have a financial background. He makes the point when he went into Home Affairs, he wasn't qualified for that position, but he managed to turn around that department. He has spent the better part of his appointment defending the fact that he is the new finance minister, because he's come in on the back of someone that investors in the market love, President Gordhan. But Gigaba has, as I said, been in cabinet for many, many years, and he has that political experience that you could argue. Now, yesterday it was quite interesting watching the Rand moving and what it did on the back of these opposition marches, and it actually strengthened. You'll know that there was a disastrous fall in the Rand when Gordhan was replaced, because he had such trust, and South Africa was on this particular fiscal path, and investors were obviously concerned if it would change, but it hasn't. And we've seen Gordhan coming out trying to not mobilize people, but address people on the back of his firing. He was at a Kathrada memorial on Saturday where he was booed by Youth League members. And this is the kind of thing that we're seeing. Whether or not appointing a new finance minister ahead of 2019 will save Zuma's reputation is really debatable. I think that the problems are bigger than just the latest cabinet reshuffle.
All right. Voldy Karel said, thank you so much for us there in South Africa, covering the protest there against President Jacob Zuma of South Africa.